Levitt with an unplanned surprise live stream with super UX person Jen Blatz from Dallas, Texas. I'm going to let her introduce myself while I open up all of the chat windows. If you guys have any questions, we are live on LinkedIn and YouTube. If you're watching this live, go ahead and ask your questions. Over to you, Jen.
Hello, everybody. Good morning and happy holidays. My name is Jen Blatz, and I'm one of the founders of UX Research and Strategy, which is a meetup primarily in Dallas now, but who knows, we may expand in the future. And I wanted to just take a moment to talk about why we're here today and to share a little bit about this upcoming webinar that we're having with Debbie in January. So this is a little preliminary sneak peek that we're going to have with Debbie today, but we're teasing to our live webinar, which is happening on January 11th in 2020 at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. So that's a Saturday. And in order to participate in the event, we ask that you RSVP on Eventbrite. You might not need to narrow the Eventbrite location to Dallas to find it. Again, the group is UX Research and Strategy, and it's a fireside chat with Debbie Levitt. We're going to talk about topics in her book, and wherever the conversation goes, we'll also be taking questions in advance. Either you can tweet us or ask us on Instagram or Facebook. We're all over social media, or even on LinkedIn. And you can ask your questions in advance. And we're also going to have some questions teed up for Debbie. Again, this is January 11th, 2020. And that is, in order to see it either live or watch the recording, you'll need to RSVP on Eventbrite. So look for UX Research and Strategy in the Dallas area and RSVP to our webinar. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into any questions or a couple of questions that we have for Debbie. Debbie, are you ready?
Always ready. And you and I haven't prepared these ahead of time. So this is gotcha journalism.
Yes, this is very impromptu. She's not prepared. So we're going to shoot them live.
What is she going to ask me? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so Debbie, research is often seen as too time consuming and resource consuming. And this can be really tough for others to buy into, right? So I want to know, like, how do you do it? What are some key tips and phrases that you use to convince others of the importance of devoting time and resources to research?
Yeah, it can be a little bit of it depends. So nobody cry when I say that. But typically I have to hear the exact argument or reason against for me to know what to say to counter that. You know, I grew up in a family of lawyers, so I've got to hear what you think in order to know how to best counter that. I don't have like a staple thing, but normally the types of it depends on what I hear. So if I hear, you know, we don't need to spend a lot of time on research. We really know who our customers are. I think a good standard response could be something like, what if our information is outdated? And I think that's a little bit softer than what if we're wrong? What if you're wrong? What if you're a jerk? You know, I think it's a softer way to raise this idea without making it anybody's fault. So what if the information we have about our customers is outdated? What if we are not as fresh as we should or could be on what our customers' needs are, what their unmet needs are, or whether or not this product or feature is a match to them? You know, we don't want to end up, it depends who it is. I know that I'll name a name here. I spent 2 years contracting at Macy's, and there were times where somebody would float something and I would say, well, you know, can I research that or can I work with my because we had separate researchers. Can I work with a research partner on that? And they'd be like, no time or money for that. And I'd be like, well, we're publicly traded, and I bet TechCrunch will love to write about that if we get it wrong. And then a few people would be like, oh, like, oh, maybe, yeah, people sure do love to cover Macy's in the news when they get it wrong. Okay, hold on a second. So I think that we have to appeal to the real pain our companies are feeling when we don't do research or we get research wrong or we've skimped on it, or the pain our company could potentially feel if we really do go down the wrong path by not doing a better job. But there's never perfection, but not doing at least a better job understanding our real customers and their real needs, motivations, fears, habits, and deeply knowing their mental models and how we can best address them. So again, there's no magic bullet to it, but I try to make it never about an individual person. I'm sure we've all said to someone, what if you're wrong? But that ends up being very personal. Like, hey, you're a jerk. I think if we can take out the emotions and the you out of that and say, what if our information is outdated? What customers are always shifting. The apps that you loved last year, this year you uninstalled because they weren't good enough for you. They didn't meet your needs anymore. Just think about yourself. You've changed. What if our customers have changed? We should get, and then have like a fixed ask. Don't say, I need time or I need money. We really need to make sure our call to action is a little more specific. I need a week. I need a week and 3 people. I need 2 weeks and just me. Like have a specific ask in mind. Otherwise, that fluffy, mysterious ask, I think, is part of what sometimes makes people go, oh, great, these UX people, we can't time box them. This isn't even a sprint. What do these people want? Just say no. So I think if you can find a way to ask for something that sounds reasonable, I just need 2 weeks and two of us, and we're going to have concrete answers to you within then. This is what we'll have by then. Have a plan. So that is the medium to long answer. I hope that was okay. A follow-up question, thought? How about you?
Yeah, that's great. So what about the sticky question, which I hear often is, we don't have time for research.
Yeah, and again, I would have to hear more about that. But normally, again, I go for the pain point and I say, it's strange that we never seem to have time for research, but we always seem to have time to fix it after the developers build it and QAs it and we get it out there. And so somehow we have time to build this thing that could be somewhat to highly flawed. We had time for that. We had time to dump on our customer support team and our social media managers who are going to have to put out all these fires. We had time for sales to have to be embarrassed by this, because sometimes sales goes, oh my God, I remember some companies I've worked at, sales contacts me and says, I can't sell this, or people are canceling. So I just say to people, what would happen if this were released 2 or 3 weeks later because your UX team wanted to do a more thorough job in research? What would that 2 or 3 weeks need? Could we save more than 2 or 3 weeks of time by having fewer or no things that developers have to fix, by saving hours of time from customer support having to explain things, retain accounts, keep people from freaking out? So I try to find concrete things that say, look, it feels like a waste of time or money now, but these are the things it saves with our engineering process. Engineering should be able to build faster and more efficiently because they know exactly what we're building and it's been vetted. I tell people this is the QA of UX. And then we'll save time and money after it gets released, because instead of having to waste engineering's time circling back to rebuild something, we're going to get it more right the first time. And that's efficiency, that's agility, that's lean. These are all things we want.
Sure. Have you had success by proposing some of those rationales to buying some time? Because I've heard like, next sprint we start development, so we have to do this now, or hurry, hurry, hurry. Have you had success?
Yeah, obviously success is varied and it depends very much about the company. There are places where I've worked where I've been given more autonomy, and it's been like, Debbie, this is your expertise. What kind of time frame do you need, and what can we do here, and where can we skimp because we want to go a little faster? Then I can be strategic and go, okay, I need to do a little more here, and I could do a little less here, but then I'm going to insist on this. But a lot of times we don't get that, and I chalk that back to even taking a step back further, which is, why are you being told so close to sprint one that engineering needs stuff from you? If chances are our company has known that this project has been in the pipeline, they've known for weeks, they've known
Yeah.
for months, but then they decide now to tell you until you're holding up engineering. So to me, that's where, especially where our managers have to come in and work with product managers, project managers. If you're doing agile, you might have portfolio, program, people who are looking at the big picture of all these projects. And we have to start explaining that UX and engineering can be agile and are in sprints, but we don't start when engineering starts. We fill the backlog. And in order for there to be backlog for engineering to start building at this point, you've got to start us back here. And that doesn't mean we need 6 months. Maybe it means we want to, many people say UX should be 2 or more sprints ahead. I have a client that tries to stay 4 to 6 sprints ahead. Now, if you're doing 1 week sprints, we're only talking about 2, 4, 6 weeks. We're not talking about UX wants to start 8 months ahead. But people make stuff up in their head. Oh, UX, they're so waterfall, they want to start 2 years ahead. It's, stop making up stuff about us. So you're totally right. A lot of times people have said to me, this is it. This is where we are. This is what we do. And then I have to decide what gets sacrificed. And typically, what gets sacrificed is going to be some research or some testing, because you can't really do less interaction design. That's one thing that we can't seem to do. I can't say I'm only going to design half this screen, so we can't skimp there. So I find that we either end up skimping in research or we end up skimping in testing. And if I really have no research to go by, nobody has ever talked to these customers about anything ever, then I might still try to buy that. I might still try to say, can I get 3 days to do some research? I mean, it might be super guerrilla. I might try to find real users. I might try to find archetypal users that match our personas who come from out somewhere else, not friends, family, LinkedIn, but I might try to be a little guerrilla about it. Can I bang out 5, 10 interviews? Or as you'll see from my book, there's a whole list in part 3 of plan B. When you can't talk to the customer, who can you talk to? I want to sit in with customer support for a day and listen to phone calls. I have done that. I want to talk to customer support about the key problems people are having in general or in a certain area of our project. I have done that. People will say, ask stakeholders. I can ask stakeholders, but I have to remember that there's bias and there's horses and races there. So I can ask stakeholders, but I might ask them more about project goals than tell me what the customer needs and is experiencing. So I will always try to do as much guerrilla stuff as I can and talk to as many people who are as close to the customers as possible. Sometimes companies have given me 0 customers to talk to, and I have had to run with what I could do. Like I said, that I've plan Bs I go for. So I will still try to be like, oh my God, can I do 3 days of research? Can I do 2 days of research? And at least have spoken to X people and then still have time for testing at the end. So I would say, other than a couple of really unfortunate job situations where it was really just like literally, I had a number of meetings at company I won't name where I walked into the kickoff meeting and they said, we want wireframes in 2 days. Obviously, at that point, you're not researching, you're not testing, it's guess-o-rama. And so that's part of where I started documenting risk. I started saying, because we didn't have good research on this, because we didn't do testing, here is the risk that this now creates. Here's what I think is going to happen. My celebrity professional prediction. Here's what I believe is going to happen when we release this. And that way later on I can go, see, you gave me 3 minutes to do a 1-month job or whatever it is. I knew that this was going to be a poop storm. Next time, can we do a little bit better? So again, sorry, I only have long answers for things. Go ahead. Back to you.
No, that's great. I've been there. I hear you, Debbie. It's a little bit's better than nothing, right? We'll take what we can get. Sometimes if it's just an afternoon of just asking a few people, we'll take it. If that's all we can get, we'll take it.
I once had to build personas from only getting to speak to customer support and executives. And I spoke to mountains of customer support. I spoke to 3 executives. I came up with a set of personas. I had photos of them. I had their stories. I had all this stuff. And the VP goes, I have to show you something. And I said, okay. Well, then she shows me, I don't know why I didn't see this before. Then she shows me this promotional video they had shot with real customers giving their testimonials about their stories. each customer not only had a story that matched my persona and like the little make up a story about them, but the photos looked exactly like these people. I just started crying. I just said like, oh my God, I was in such a tough spot on this job, but I feel like I was really proud of it. I'm deeply proud of that because in the face of the poop storm and in face of not getting to talk to these people, I was still able to pull the right information out from the right people and clear away the lenses and the biases and whatever and really see into that. But I mean, that of course comes with the number of years of experience that I have. Not everyone starting out is going to feel like they can do that, but that's really one of my proudest moments was seeing those personas come to life on this promo video and go, oh my God, that's the exact person that was in my head and they're real. It was emotional. I
That's
love my
pretty
work.
amazing. Wow. Kind of validates what you were working on, right? Like, wow, this is a thing.
I would never want to validate not talking to customers, but I would have to say in this case I got it right. And they couldn't let me talk to customers. This was a nonprofit credit counseling service, and they could not have me talk to people who had financial issues and other issues, and they didn't want to expose those people to me. And I get it. And people say, oh, we can't talk to our customers for this other reason. I get it, but there are some plan Bs that we can do. And to me, that's when you bring in the big guns. That's when you bring in the veterans with a lot more years of experience because we just have a spidey sense that many juniors have not yet developed. Some of them do have it, and that's fantastic. Some of them haven't developed it yet, and you just have to bring in the big guns for it.
Wow, sounds good. So, Debbie, what do we do when there's been a sense of democratization of research in UX, and we've kind of lost that UX power, and we're now seen as basically workshops facilitators, or we're going to design by committee, all your favorite terminology as you discussed.
I'm writing an article about this right now.
How do we get that power back if we've
It's
lost it?
really hard. It's like ask someone who's been in an abusive relationship, how do you get your power back? How do you get your voice back? I think many of us have been in abusive relationships to varying degrees. And how do you get that power back? And it's very hard. Once you teach someone, yes, this is my place, or I accept being here, or sure, this is the work you can give me. It's like saying, gosh, I'm at this job and they don't really understand what they do and they're trying to make me an order taker, but I'm an awesome low ego action hero, as I say. I'm an awesome problem solver. How do I shift from being an order taker? You might not. And so that's to me some of the biggest danger of all of the democratization, design thinking, design sprint, whatever word it's being given right now. These are all basically words for we need to take some power away from UX. None of these empower us. Now, some people think, well, design thinking, that empowers us because now everyone's talking about design. Well, they're talking about a version of design that doesn't match what we're doing. Someone was fighting me on LinkedIn the other day and he tried to say, well, what about the scientific method? The scientific method simplifies science, and we wouldn't say the scientific method is bad or wrong. So why are you saying design thinking is bad or wrong? And I said, the scientific method is how we teach things to children. Like, I think you're making my point. Like, no one who got a PhD is going to say, hello, I'm defending my PhD today, and I did the scientific method. This is what we say to kids. So how do you get your power back? It's very hard. And I think that's why we have to resist it much earlier on. We have to remember that when you hear a word like democratization, it's really a euphemism because democratization implies, and this is what I'm writing an article about right now. So you guys will see an article on this next month. Democratization implies that it's been a dictatorship or not a democracy. And now we're going to have to rebalance power because, those UX people, they had too much power. Over what? How many of us at our jobs feel so powerless and like we can't even make our own decisions now? Yet there is this movement to even take more of that power away. There's a real fear. So I think people need to resist that earlier on. It's going to probably take managerial intervention, but UX people who fall for the democratization word will typically say to me, but don't we want our work to be accessible to others? And I say, focus on accessible. I do want there to be greater collaboration. I do want us to be everything that we make, we've got to share. Right now, UX very often we go hide away in our silo. We do some research, some competitive analysis. We do content mapping, content strategy, information architecture, and then we show someone a wireframe. This is what I did. Oh my God, no, you did all this other stuff. Now people just think we make wireframes. So they think when they do a design thinking or design sprint exercise and they sketch a screen, they must be doing what we do. And that's where all this starts getting very blurry. So I think it's hard to regain power from these things because once people think UX, they just facilitate workshops. I would be polishing up the resume. You know, I have quit jobs that wanted me to be an order taker. I have gone into those jobs. Those jobs said to me, "We love your expertise. We love your experience. You seem fun. You know, come on in and help clean up this mess." And then when I got there, it was really, well, can you just kind of, you know, box, smaller box, smaller box, put Debbie in the smaller and smaller box. And I will leave that job even if I have no other job to go to. I will just walk away. And obviously, if when I'm more desperate, I'm not just walking away, but you don't want, no job wants the person who's only there because they're desperate and so on. So I don't have a great answer of how do we get that power back. That's very hard to do in any dynamic in our lives once we have taught someone that we are willing to be on that lower level. And so I believe strongly in collaboration. I believe strongly in working with our cross functional team, but I am against anything that ends up taking our power away and anything that makes us the coach of the team and or even not the coach of the team. I mean, again, if you look at what the Lean UX book says, it says you don't want specialists to run research and do research. You want the whole team to do it. These are just fallacies. I'm sorry, is the sun going down here already where I am? Let's turn on the light. So it's just going to make me look dark and mysterious. So I don't know how we get, you know, how do you get your power back? How do you fix a broken relationship is really the question. And I don't know. You sometimes can't. And to me, the key is to never let it get broken, is to never accidentally end up just the, you know, if you think you're going to run a workshop, you've got to run it on your terms. And I people sometimes say to me, but Deb, design thinking and design sprints can work. And I say, okay, tell me what you're doing. And they describe it to me and I go, but that doesn't match the traditional definition of design thinking or the traditional definition of design sprints. And they go, yeah, that sucked. So I made it better. And I say to everybody, and I'm meeting lots of people on LinkedIn who say this to me, like, stop pooping on design sprints. They're good. Why are they good? Well, I made them better. If you have made them better, give them a fresh name. Make up your own name, Google to see if someone's calling it something else. Give it your own name. And that way, if design sprints undo themselves and fall off a cliff, when design thinking undoes itself and falls off a cliff, you still have the great thing that you are doing with this thing that you are calling it. Maybe you're calling it a UX ideation workshop. Maybe you're calling it a UX something something so that we all remember who's in charge of it. I mean, I have lots of ideas surrounding this, but I definitely cannot tell you what to do once you've given up your power.
Okay, that's fair. That's a fair answer. I know, like you said, a broken relationship, right?
We've all been in broken relationships and we tried to fix them and we couldn't.
Right, right. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up today's session with one final question. And
Okay.
Deb, I would consider you a bit of a change agent. I think you might
Many
also
people do.
consider you that as well.
I consider me that.
What do you look forward to changing in the new year?
Girlfriend, and you know the answer.
I do. Let's
You
share it
do.
with our viewers.
Yeah, obviously I'm only saying a very, very small amount about this in public now. It'll be more public, I think, more in February or March. But I would say in the vaguest terms possible, expect me and some wonderful collaborators to disrupt UX education in 2020. Because UX education is broken and it's making me crazy. I had to get my teeth fixed from grinding them.
Oh,
Thank
great.
you,
Well, thank
dentist
you
in
so much.
Tucson.
Yeah, there it is. Thank you so much for your time. And I really appreciate you kind of teeing up to our webinar. And hopefully more of you can join us in January 11th and
Please do.
participate in these edgy conversations that we always love having with Debbie. So thanks again, and we'll see you in January.
Thanks to you and all of the Dallas community. The Dallas UX community has been nothing but wonderful to and with me. And I just want to thank you and Lori and everybody who's been a part of that. So everybody, see you and Jen and Lori in the January Ask Me Anything webinar. Sign up for that. Follow her thing from before. And I will end the stream for now. Thank you again, Jen.
Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Happy holidays.